Where we last left off, I had gotten the truck painted, all put back together. I took it for a couple of drives. It was obviously underpowered. And not so much because it's a 3-liter that's naturally underpowered, but more because it was skipping. So I thought I had gotten that skip fixed, but once you put it under a load, the skip came back. I did a compression check. Got 140 psi in every cylinder. Compression check looked good. I pulled the intake off, checked the injectors, they all looked good. My best guess is broken valve springs. I could pull it apart and fix that, but what I've decided to do is put this engine in it, the 5EZ FE. The engine's out of a 2001 4Runner. The wiring harness is out of a 95.5 Tacoma. And I'm going to be using an Off-Road Solutions wiring harness to adapt it to the truck. This wiring harness is out of a 90 or a 91. And so that's where the connections will be made. I'm going to start to pull the cab off of the truck because I also noticed a problem with the transmission. It's got a bad bearing, and so I picked this transmission up. It's high mileage, but it ran smooth in the truck that it came out of. And I'm changing the engine and transmission. I think that I'm already doing all the work anyway. I might as well just pull the cab, and then I can do all the engine change on the frame, and then even paint the frame if it needs it. So I think that's the route we're gonna go. So I'm gonna start pulling this cab off now. Got the bumper and radiator. Cab bolts. Got all that. Everything's disconnected. Brake line. Got these cab bolts also, front and rear, both sides. Pulled the shifter out, and I disconnected the speedometer cable and the parking brake, and unplugged the rear wiring harness. And then there's two gas lines that go between the frame and the cab underneath. Those are disconnected. So the only thing left is this gas line here. So it's kind of in a tough spot to get to. I could get to it, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put some jack stands under the cab and then lower the frame back down. And once that separates a little bit, I'll have more access to get in there, get the gas line, take that out, and then I'll be able to hook the cab up and lift it up. Might be a little bit on the sketchy side. I've got 8,000-pound capacity ratchet straps holding the cab up. So, you know, it's floating. It's not sitting on the jack stands, it's actually hanging. Need to bring it up enough to clear the engine, which is about, I don't know, 16 inches. And then I can roll the frame out from under it. Nice. Got the engine ready to pull. Motor mounts out. Got the starter air conditioning out. That was just to get the motor mount bolts easier. Got the bolts underneath the transmission mount out. Exhaust manifold off. So I just need to chain this up and lift it right on out of here. Getting this engine ready. So I've adapted the dipstick. Had to drill that hole out. Put a plug in the old hole. I fixed some broken bolts in the head, both sides. Timing belt all new. Got the AC pump bracket. I had to do a little grinding on the top hole for the AC bracket to get the 3-liter motor mount to fit. And this just barely fits in here. I mean, there's maybe 30 thousandths between that bracket and that bolt. So I'm going to pick it back up and grind that bracket down a little bit to give more clearance, because once this thing starts moving, it's going to hit. Similar on this side. The alternator doesn't clear the power steering. I can't even come close to tightening that belt up or fitting the bracket on. But I think I can unbolt the power steering pump. Those 2 bolts and that one there, and maybe cut a slot in that and shim the power steering gearbox over 1/4 inch, and then I think I can get clearance on the alternator. Oh, it's Ginger. I wanted to use the 3-liter water pump outlet, but it interferes with the bracket for the alternator. I still need to get this pulley here, which is this one on here is off the 3-liter. I don't have the one off of this engine, so I need to get that. Figured out the basic intake setup. I may add some tubing and stuff to it later, but that'll work. Gotta rewire this throttle position sensor, because they had cut the wires on it, so I had to buy a new wire end. I gotta figure out the wiring for that. I've got to get some vacuum lines and get that hooked up. Pretty basic. So the next thing after I get that is figuring out this exhaust. I got to get the transmission in it, which is that one over there. This is the one out of the truck, which has a 3rd gear and reverse issue. I got a new power steering line because I broke the old one taking it apart. So we'll get that installed. And then I got this adapter harness here. from Off-Road Solutions, so that should work out pretty good. I think I'm going to try to come down this side with the exhaust. Since it's two-wheel drive, it shouldn't really matter. It's just the gas line and brake lines are the only difference, and then the starter, which is already in the heat zone no matter what side you go. So it's coming along. I ended up having to buy a lot more stuff than I wanted to, but it is what it is. Well, today was a rainy day. I did get some stuff done. I got the exhaust manifolds done. I didn't paint it orange because I think it's cool or anything. It's the only color high temperature paint I had. And since I made this stuff with off-the-shelf components, I figure it might help keep it from rotting. I separated out the O2 sensor wires from the harness. Everything here is automatic transmission and four-wheel drive, which I don't need. That one there, I'm not sure what that is. It looks like an O2 sensor plug, but unless this thing has 3 O2 sensors, I don't know what that would be for. I did fill it up with oil and cranked it over, build oil pressure, so that should be good. Got that motor mount spaced out. See, there's just a washer in there spacing it out, which gave me the clearance I needed over here. Transmission's fully installed. I just need to get the drive shaft hooked up. Got the other piece of exhaust out there drying. Get that installed. It's getting dark though. I was hoping to put the body back on today, but welding those pipes, that took a long time. My welder's kind of a piece of shit, so I had to deal with that. But anyway, just this power steering line and that last piece of exhaust, and that's it. And then it's ready to put the cab on. I even got the Off-Road Solutions wiring harness added. Put this boot on there. I do need to wrap everything up still, but for now, that'll do. But it's coming along. I gotta work all week. I gotta put in a 40-hour week. So it's going to sit here until next week. Next weekend anyway. Next Friday. But I should be able to get it put in. It's supposed to be raining then too, so it's gonna suck. It really slows me down. I've got a back problem. This thing has cost a little bit more than I was hoping. I'm not doing it for profit. I'm doing it because it's fun. So when there's things that aren't fun, It really gets to me. And when I'm working on something with my back in pain, that's and it's not fun. So it slows me down, and it's all right. I'm not going to drive this truck this winter, so I mean, I live in upstate New York. You know, this is a Survivor '93 Toyota truck. It's actually a lot of years Toyota truck now. I think the frame's a 90, the wiring in the cab's a 91, the engine's a 96, the cab's a 93. This transmission's out of a 97 T100. It's just a mashup of everything, but you know, you get a lot more pride when you build something yourself. Example, I have that truck. It's got 8,000 miles on it. I hate it. It's a new truck and it runs and drives good, but all I did was buy it. There's no effort to it. There's something to be said for having a project and then driving your project, you know. Even if it's got flaws, you always tend to like it better than what you can just go buy. You know, this spring I sold my Mustang. It was a 2020. I liked the car, but I would rather have an older Mustang that I built and put together. That car wasn't practical. So this truck is practical. I can use it, even if it's just going to the dump or something. You know, I can tow with it, whatever. So I really feel like when you put the effort into something, you really have more respect for it. And right now, that Nissan truck, if I were to wrap it around a tree, I wouldn't even care. But this, after all this effort, you know, it's like my baby, you know. I put all the time and effort into it. I don't want to see anything happen to it. So that's just how I feel about these things. And that's kind of why I do these projects. There's no profit in this truck. Like, there's no way that I can profit on this. I've got over 6,000 into it. It's hard enough to sell something with a swapped engine because you got to explain to somebody how to buy parts for it or something. That just becomes a pain in the ass. Even if it had the correct engine in it, I think the book on it's like 5,000. And yeah, there are people that like them. There's a lot of landscapers use these trucks, and with the dump and everything, I might be able to break even on it, or maybe even make a little bit of profit. But I don't even think it's worth it. I think that the value in this is the effort put into it, and driving it, and just enjoying the fruits of my labor. That's what you get out of these things sometimes. I've had quite a few projects over the years where I spent well over book value on it, but it was worth it for me, and drove them for years. So once this one's done, you know, I don't know what's next. I mean, I'm not rich. I've spent a lot of years making a little bit of money to be able to do stuff like this, you know. And I don't go on vacations like, you know, most people like to do. Like, when I take time off of work, this is the stuff that I do. Like this July, I took 2 weeks off of work, and I got this truck, and I did all the body work and brakes and wheels and everything on it then. And, you know, if it wasn't skipping, I would have been done. But it had that skip, and the fun option was to swap this engine into it. I could have fixed the other one, no problem. But this was, to me, was the fun option. So, you know, in the end, I hope it works out, because I put an extra couple $1,000s into it. But, you know, even if it doesn't work out, it's still time well spent. I learned a lot. I learned that this can be done. I opted to buy the wiring harness because, as much as I actually do enjoy wiring, there's some of the schematics were a little confusing from Toyota, and I wasn't sure if I had the right ones. So it was worth it for me to just have somebody else figure everything out. And they've been doing it for years. I could have got it running, but I don't know if I would have had everything working correctly on it. So, you know, leave it to the experts sometimes. In the future, though, now I know what needs to be done. If I did another one of these, I could just do it. I wouldn't need to buy another wiring harness. I know the basics enough, and I can read schematics, so I think that would be fun. It would be fun to do that eventually. Maybe in a couple of years there's a 4-wheel drive truck. Who knows? I might put something like that together. That one would probably still have the 3-liter. I've got the 87, the yellow truck. Well, it's an 86, but the yellow truck. And I might fix the 3-liter out of this and put it in that. Or I might do the same thing again with that. You know, that would be a fun project. I can get a transmission, 4-wheel drive, put it in there. I just have to have some drive shafts made, and maybe just the one drive shaft, because right now that's a 4-cylinder, which I converted from EFI to carburetor. But that engine, you know, it's got a rod knock at high RPM, so I'm not expecting that to last forever. So who knows? You know, maybe that's the next project. Maybe the 94 Toyota's the next project, and maybe it's something entirely different. I do know that I have to do some work around the house. I got to install my wood stove. I got to build an interior wall to separate the bedroom, because right now the house is just one big room. It's nice, but you invite people over, you're inviting them right into your bedroom. So it'd be nice to have a separate room that I can close off just for having guests over, so they're not like looking at my bed and whatever. But I mean, honestly, that's not that big of a deal for me. I don't do much socializing. I don't bring a lot of people over or whatever. But I don't know. I guess that's enough of a rant for now. Next week, hopefully I can get this thing put back together and get it running. We'll see. That's all for now. Damn fucking buttons. It's been a week since last time I updated. So what I did, I've got the cab back on, and I used hockey pucks, 6 of them, to give the cab a 1-inch lift so that the hood clears the engine. So I just have it sitting on here. I haven't tightened anything down yet. Pretty straightforward. Looks like I got good clearance on the exhaust. Both sides. This here is all the wiring that's not going to be used. Now that I have it in here, I can better see how I want to route it. The fuel line kind of came up on this side, and the wiring on this is on that side, so I'm going to have to reroute that. Those are the oxygen sensor wires. Got the power steering lines installed, so that's all good. I'm still missing the correct pulley to match this for the power steering pump, but everything's looking pretty good. I did crash into this valve when I brought the engine up, so hopefully that didn't damage anything too bad that the controls don't work. I ended up unbolting it. So I gotta figure out what I'm doing with these lines. Looks like it's gonna, pretty straightforward. Just hook them up. No big deal. I ran the vapor line up the center to get it away from the exhaust, and then I ran the return line on the cab. Apparently the side buttons activate the camera too. Anyway, so I got the return line, so it only has to go about 4 inches to connect. Pressure lines here. I picked up a hose that should work. I ended up pulling the upper intake off to do that. So there's not a lot to hook up there. Looks like the steering column went back together nicely. Just got to tighten the bolts up. Got the power steering lines. I do have a new clutch master cylinder. Not that there's anything wrong with that one, it's just got some black sludge in it. So I routed the clutch line up so that it comes up over here, and it looks like it's not quite, well, maybe it does make it. I might actually be able to use that without having to change anything, but yeah, that'll work. Just gotta make sure it's not. And so that's all good. I need to figure out, the new plug came with 4 purple wires, and I didn't have the original plug, so I got to figure out which wire goes where. So that's fun. I gotta get that hose routed correctly. But looks like this will go there, something like that. So the battery will still fit in here. Igniter. Actually 2 bolts matched up, so that worked out pretty good. Wiring run through, taped up. I put the computer diagnostic fuse in there. I suppose that's what that's for. 10 amp fuse. It's hooked up to the 80 amp fuse. So it's got constant power, but it's fused constant power. Starter wire, still gotta hook that up to that. This morning I'm gonna see if I can find this pulley. I got a place close by that might have it. I gotta flare the end of this line here. I installed the gas line, so that should work there. Alternator's hooked up. Got to get this hooked back up. I pulled the intake off to get these heater hoses routed, and then I had to fix the on-off for the heat blender, I guess you'd call it. I don't know what the fuck that's called. But I would have had this done yesterday if it weren't for the fucking rain in the morning flaring up my arthritis. Yes, it is what it is. So I guess what I've got to do today is finish hooking up the last few things. I did have this throttle cable hooked up with the, I need to modify the bracket a little bit. That's this bracket here. So I bent it down so that the cable would work, but then it's coming at the wrong angle. So I need to just like modify the angle of that. Otherwise that'll wear out that throttle cable real quickly. So anyway, get that done. I need to get a pigtail for the wiring for the wiper motor, because even though nothing happened over there, there's soot all over everything, as if there was some sort of a fire. Clutch line's hooked up, AC's hooked up. Looks like just about done. That plugs in right there. Just about done under the hood. I still have to rerun the O2 sensor wires so that they're not rubbing on the steering column, because they're coming up the wrong side of that. I picked up this because the cab is now an inch higher. My clearance lights are no longer visible. So I picked this up at O'Reilly, and it's just like LED lights with blue stick-on strips, and the display has this button that says "Try Me" on the box, right? You push it and it's like, oh look, they light right up, you know, it's pretty bright. But the dishonesty, it's got two 9-volt batteries, right? So this "Try Me" and what you see and how bright they are, that's fucking 18 volts. If this thing has 18 volts going through the electrical system, you've got a serious problem. It should be max like 14.5 volts. So I'm not expecting these to be quite that bright, but they'll still work. But I mean, if you have a display that says "Try Me" on it and it's that fucking dishonest, like, I have no respect for that company, honestly. That's bullshit. But anyway, all right, I still haven't bolted the cab in because I didn't want to lay on the concrete, but I guess I'm gonna do that first thing this morning. Get everything underneath hooked back up. That's the speedometer, parking cable, rerouting the O2 sensors, and the 2 gas lines going to the gas tank, the return line and the vapor line. So because I believe I switched these, I think this used to be the vapor line, and the one that I have hooked up over to the canister used to be the return line, so I have to switch them underneath, but I'm not positive that I switched them. So I'm gonna run some compressed air through this line and feel which one it's coming out of underneath. That way I know which one to hook the return to. And then the other one will just be the vapor line. And I still got to get some electrical tape on that stuff there. And I'll get the cab bolted down. And then I got to get everything inside the cab hooked up, which is just the wires and putting the floor mats back in place and the shifter. So I'm going to get all that done, and then we'll it's like Schrodinger's engine at that point. You know, as long as I don't try to start it, it's good, right? But if I try to start it and this engine's no good, then it's a huge waste. So I got a lot done, but I haven't completely finished. I got all the wiring done, mounted the air filter, and I made a quick bracket for that. Got the radiator installed. I haven't filled it yet, but it's there. Alternator. I was able to find a pulley locally, but I don't have the correct belt, so I still have to get a belt. I took all the extra wire and just stuffed it in a bag over here and taped up that harness and re-ran it so that it's not touching the steering column. Got the gas lines hooked up. The only thing I need is I need a vacuum tee for the fuel pressure regulator. I got everything underneath done. That's 100%. And I've got the ECU hooked up. That's pretty good. I ended up just running the OBD ground over here for now. I gotta run it across speaker wires. I gotta run it across, put it somewhere else, but for now, connector's right there, fuse is there, cruise control something wires. Don't really know what those are for. I did kind of hook the shifter up. I need to get a end for this lead going to the fuse box, and I need to get a negative battery terminal with a ground wire. But for now, this will work. So this thing should run. The oil pressure looks good. I think I still need to add a resistor to the tach to get that to work. I did crank it over a little bit, and I ran the fuel pump manually to flush the lines out. So started up pretty good. It does run pretty smooth. I'm pretty happy about that. You never know with a Facebook Marketplace engine what you're getting. But I guess you have the same problems when you buy an engine from a junkyard. You don't know. You're taking their word for it. So I've got a list of stuff that I got to get still. It's pretty late on Sunday. Hopefully sometime this week I'll be able to finish putting this thing together. But pretty happy with it. It runs a hell of a lot better than the old engine did, that's for sure. It's real snappy, it's smooth, so I mean only time will tell if it's good or not. But I just gotta tidy it up now. 100% underneath. I still have to hook the brake lines up and bleed them out. I need to bleed the clutch out. Power steering belt. Gotta fill the radiator. I need to get a hose clamp for the lower hose. And what else? It's not really much. I think that's just about it. I just gotta tidy the interior back up. And I need to get a bushing kit for the shifter, because the bushing that's on the end of that is pretty wore out right now. So the shifter's sloppy. But hopefully everything's good. That's all for now. Well, got the outside under the hood and under the truck 100% done. Interior still, I still have to put the glove box in under the dash because I replaced the clutch master cylinder. I'm going to change the radio out to one that actually works with new speakers. It's time for a test drive. Brakes are good. Clutch feels okay. I'm sticking up my middle finger.